It's 11:05. We're gonna go ahead and get started. First of all, good morning, everyone. We made this workshop open to the public. And moving forward, it's gonna be open for anyone who wants to join. So please feel free to share the link, the Zoom link in the future with anyone you would like to share it with. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Abel Mansouri. I am the Language Access Project Manager with United Way of Southern Nevada. Today we're gonna have David doing a presentation about language access and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and he's gonna be sharing some very valuable information with you all. Thank you all for joining us today, and I will hand it over to David. Go ahead, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Just need 1 second. I'm trying to get this. And while I give a few minutes to some other to join us, I'm just going to play a clip in the meantime. So let me see. Can anybody hear me? Sorry,
Yes,
it looks like I might have clicked something. It's putting people in waiting rooms.
Oh no, it's usually the standard procedure. So we
Okay.
do waiting rooms instead of the code. But yeah, we're gonna see more people joining in as we move forward.
Got it. So everybody can see the screen that I have in front of me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Patient has a fractured fibula. Given him, well, Saturday. So I could be able to go on tomorrow.
Daddy's gonna be so excited.
I'll do.
That killed him.
Paging Dr. Palmer, Dr. Barbara Palmer, dial 452.
Hello. How much are they asking?
Well, that's a lot of money for a deck.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but you're getting robbed. Did you hear me? You're getting robbed.
AmeriQuest, an open-minded, equal opportunity lender.
Hi, can I get a quarter for the change?
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Oh, Kevin.
Sarah!
Hi. So what are you doing?
Dude, I forgot your wallet.
AmeriQuest, an open-minded, equal opportunity lender.
I don't hate your mother. Morning, Bev.
AmeriQuest, an open-minded.
So these are some short videos from AmeriQuest. They decided to go more cultural and kind of like don't judge quickly. So that goes into some of the aspects that we're going to go into later on in this presentation. I was just giving a chance for everybody to continue joining us. And for those who don't know me, my name is David Loaiza. from Diversidad, and I do some of the consulting for language access. Also have about 20 years of experience when it comes to language access and diversity and inclusion. So I'll, as we move into the presentation, let me show this other screen. So as we move into the presentation, I want you guys to think about moments that you didn't feel included. Some, whether it was back in the days when you were in school, that you were the last one to be picked, or maybe recently, or when you were traveling around. Just think of those moments where you felt negative. Try to come up with some sort of example. I'm not going to ask you to share it if it's traumatic. So just think for a moment. And now think of the opposite, a moment where you actually felt very welcome, like the most valuable player when you walked in the room, that you were being taken into consideration, asked questions, and you felt really important. And I think that's kind of like what we want to portray in this presentation about language access, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So when we talk about language access, and I hope that everybody already got some sort of system in place. If you haven't set it up, please and you have access to Able, contact Able for this type of resource, which is usually when you implement something remotely for language access, such as video, telephone, it's not going to cost you unless you're using it. So it's not going to have a monthly payment. So if that's something that is preventing you from moving forward with that strategy, I would say just go ahead and jump in and get set up with an account. So just imagine trying to navigate essential services in a language you don't understand. Language access ensures everyone, regardless of native language, that they can fully participate in the community. Interpretation services, when we talk about interpretation services, it means qualified interpreters bridging the gap of communication in meetings, appointments, and critical interactions. The translation of documents, signs, website content in multiple languages is also beneficial for people to know what's going on, or to be more confident when making a decision. Culturally sensitive communication, understanding the needs of those who are limited English proficient, LAP, and avoiding communication barriers. So just imagine trying to figure out important stuff like a doctor's appointment or government forms in a language that you don't speak. Language access is like a superpower that makes sure everyone can totally be a part of society, no matter what the language they speak. It's where they're from or dialect. So having interpreters on call, it's very important for the meetings, for the interactions. A lot of you guys have already bilingual staff, which is amazing. One of the things that when meeting with each one of you in the past that I suggest is having some sort of something in writing that allows the company to know who speaks what and the level of proficiency. A lot of the times, coming from the interpreting world, it's kind of funny when we're being called to a room, for example, in a hospital, the doctor, one of the nurses pages for the doctor to have the interpreter, and we show up. And when we get there, the doctor says something like, "Oh, no worries. The son here speaks Spanish, so we don't need you." So we walk away. Okay, that's fine. Like, I guess you took care of it. But just think about as a professional, you go years of education, training, and experience learning about different aspects, how to communicate properly, and making the presenter or the professional, in this case, the medical provider, sound as good as he sounds in his own language. Having somebody that is a kid or not, could be proficient in the language, but not trained at the language, it can create some issues. There are some things called false cognates. It just sounds the same from one language to another, but it causes multiple problems. And in the medical setting, there's quite a few that have caused a lot of issues, such as the word hospice, when somebody's trying to set up palliative care for somebody that is about to die, and they say, okay, we're gonna send you to a hospice facility. That word hospice is not translated literally, although there are some bad translations out there that say hospicio because it sounds the same. And if I'm haven't heard that word, I say, okay, I heard the word hospicio, hospice sounds the same. It creates a lot of issues, and it has in the past, because an hospicio in some other countries that are Spanish speaking, it just means a homeless shelter. So to tell somebody that is dying that they're being sent to a homeless shelter, it creates more traumatic experience. So just think about the some of the connotations or denotations that some of the words might come. When we talk about also these false cognates in the legal aspects, so one of the most common words that I hear a lot being mistranslated, even in some of the news, is the word violation. So the person violated the rules of or the standards. So that word violation is just not being compliant. In Spanish, literally the word violación, which sounds like violation, it just has a different connotation, kind of, it just means rape. So there was an issue in court where they said, okay, we need you to pay the violation fees out. So you just plead no contest, or we want you to pay for the violation fine outside. And that word was mistranslated into, we need you to pay for the fine for raping. And the guy just became belligerent saying, okay, well, I did not commit any rape. I was just, it was a speeding ticket. So it just creates more confusion and another traumatic experience. When we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion, these go hand by hand, mean different thing. Equity is all about making sure everyone has a fair shot at getting what they need. It's not about treating everyone exactly the same, but it's about acknowledging that some people start out with more advantages than others. Diversity is all about celebrating the different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives that people bring to the table. It's about recognizing that there is strength and variety, and that it makes teams and communities more vibrant and creative. And inclusion is the key to making everyone feel like they belong and are valued. It's about creating a space where people feel comfortable sharing ideas and feel like they can contribute their best. It's about going beyond just having a diverse group of people and actually creating an environment where everyone feels welcome and respected. Anybody willing to share one of those examples of inclusion where you didn't feel included? Or even better, where you actually felt included into the conversation or into the group? So when we talk about language access, going back to providing what we need to we've talked to some of you guys, or I would say all of you guys, about the data, the importance of data collection, about the demographics and the community. And being in Vegas is not just about the people that we serve, but also, or the people that live here, but also the people that come and go or ended up staying. Vegas is a very touristic place, full of I mean, we have an international airport, getting 3 million people a month from everywhere in the world. So we need to be conscious about having that opportunity to provide understanding. And for some of your agencies, you are a lot different from each other. It is important to make sure that your website is well translated without using some of the AI or some of the Google Translate or other translation platforms, but having somebody that is competent in both languages to make sure that is very well translated, and sometimes not just translation, but what we call transcreation. So make sure that it's culturally sounding okay into the other language is also important. So a lot of the times that we have forms, documents, even websites, when it talks about what we do, the terminology that we use is very professional, and the translation sometimes it may be accurate, but when we specialize on something, the translation becomes more particular, more delicate, and we have to be just more conscious about it and make sure that we have somebody in-house, if possible, that can make adjustments culturally. So when we talk about business, why do we need to implement diversity, equity, inclusion, language access? So let's think about it just for a moment. There is an essential for non-for-profits providing the service. According to a study done a few years ago by I believe it was 2020 by McKinsey and Company, it found that those companies that were very well diverse, especially in their leadership roles, have 25% higher profits than other companies that they just were not as diverse. When it comes to innovation and problem solving, diverse teams bring a wider range of ideas, and retaining top talent is part of it, particularly when it comes to younger generations who value diversity. Just keep in mind, diversity is not just race and ethnicity. It's just a variety of things. Could be religion. It could be language itself within the race and ethnicity, and beliefs, the way that people grow up in different countries brings a different culture. And all of those things need to be in consideration. Now, when implementing some of the diversity and inclusion strategies for companies, we also have to be careful, because research has also shown that when not paying attention to some of the specific roles, or when we bring people into a new committee just because of the ethnicity, a lot of the times it seems like favoritism, like, oh, so I'm Hispanic and my body here is also let's say I grew up in Colombia, he's also comes from Colombia, so let's just bring him in. So that just looks more like favoritism, like we just know each other, we can relate because of where we come from, but it just doesn't bring the fairness into play. So when we try to pick people based on ethnicity and some of the different diverse descriptions that we have, we also have to make sure that they check the boxes on what we're looking for so they can bring something to the table. The idea of diversity and inclusion when we have it in a community or in our organization, in leadership, is to bring different ideas to attract more people that are diverse. So if we look all the same and we come from the same place, we think similarly. So just bringing somebody from a different culture or from a different perspective just brings us different ideas. The nice thing about living here in Vegas, when it comes to diversity, inclusion, and equity, I think is the hospitality sense of it. Some of us have experience going into the strip, like what good service means and not so good service. So I had the opportunity to go to one of those hospitality conferences, and one of the things that they train the staff, which I think it just goes into a lot of other fields, other type of organizations, it's been conscious visual, unlike the video or kind of like the video, like don't jump into conclusions about what something looks like or what their appearance is like or ethnicity, some of the beliefs. We have to just treat everybody as if they're, in short, a family member, somebody that is, regardless of where they come from, if we treat them as a family member, that's what inclusion is like. So when we have new people coming in, the staff at the hotels, for example, at the front desk, they're trained to just look at where they're from, and if they see something like a tag on the suitcase that it says Hawaii, that's where the conversation is going to start. Like, oh my God, I've been in Hawaii before, or how's the weather in Hawaii, or oh, you're coming from Hawaii. So you just go into valuing the person, bringing them up based on observing. And if you cannot have any observation, that's where the question comes in. So where are you guys coming from? Where are you visiting? And you guys have experienced that every time you come out into the strip, you feel that hospitality. And that's what we need to bring with diversity and inclusion. Okay, so when it comes to creating an inclusive culture, fostering the open communication is essential. That's why when we talk about language barriers, it's important to have something available for us to communicate. In the case of the organizations that don't really need to communicate with clients, but let's say I just have a store where people come in to look at the exhibitions and everything. Having things available for them to know what they are, it's would be the most appropriate thing. Like if they have to read a passage, then that passage needs to be translated. So the translation, the golden rule for translation usually is about 15% of the community. It's a little tricky here in Nevada because we have such a diverse community, in addition to, as I said before, the people that come in from other parts of just to visit. And so the idea of creating a translation could be based on the community and based on the people that come to your organization. So based on the community, we already know that Spanish overpasses the 15% of the community. So you should already have things that are available into Spanish or in a bilingual format, if possible. Bilingual formats could be done paragraph to paragraph, or one side English, one side Spanish, if it's a form that needs to be signed. In the hospital setting, I've seen both that if the form is just one page or half a page, you can fit everything in one page. But if it's a full page with the signature at the bottom, the standard of process to have it signed is that you have to sign the part that you understand. So for a doctor that is providing a consent form for surgery, just for example, the doctor will sign in the English part, and on the other side that is Spanish, that's where the patient would sign. A lot of these forms are delicate. They're life because of they're important forms, what we call vital forms. So a lot of them say witness, and there is a line. Make sure that if you have a qualified certified interpreter available, they don't sign in the witness form. You still need a witness. There should be a different line for the person helping with the communication. And that's an act like a witness, just because of standards of practice in the interpreting world. So there is that portion of vital forms. The when it comes to other institutions, for your organization, you just need to find out what those forms are or what important brochures that you're providing need to be translated. Make sure you make a list. And most important, if you're receiving federal funding, there are specific rules that needs to be followed in regards to promoting that you have accessibility to language access free of charge. And this could be a sign that is right on the front desk, also display in different situations as you walk in. You should be able to walk into the room and look around and have this display that says, if you speak this language, we could give you assistance free of charge. I believe first, if you already have an interpretation translations company services that you're using, a vendor, they usually provide this type of forms. Ask for them. A lot of the times it's part of their marketing as well, so they comes with their logo. We can also create one as an institution, and also just making sure that everybody knows just the specific things, that I don't have to bring somebody. When we come, just a quick overview about rules or laws. When you have federal funding, it's discriminatory when you say something like, make sure when you come to the visit, you bring somebody that speaks English. The reason that becomes discrimination because of Title VI, and that you should not discriminate anybody because of race, ethnicity, national origin being the language that they speak. The reason it becomes discriminatory to tell somebody to bring someone to interpret for them or translate for them is because, in other words, you're telling them or implying that if they don't bring somebody that speaks the language, or they don't have anybody, they're not going to get the same service. So in other words, they cannot get the service because they don't have the person. So that's where we also have to be careful on those, what we tell the person. there should be, if depending on your organization, if it's healthcare driven or legal driven, I would recommend having a waiver form for using somebody that they bring. For example, for those that have a clinic, if the person comes with a family member or friend that speaks the language and they insist that they're going to be the interpreter, and they refuse to have somebody else, or their English is not quite proficient, but it's enough, and they still refuse for the interpreter, there should be some sort of waiver form that they need to sign and specify that they refuse the use of the interpreter.
As you go through the process of thinking about whether or not this will
just 1 second,
it's going to be a really
mute. Make sure you're muted. So when expanding on equity and inclusion, the importance of equity in hiring and promoting practices is crucial for creating inclusive and equitable for your organization by ensuring fair and unbiased processes. Organizations can attract and retain diverse talents, fostering a culture of inclusivity and innovation. Fair and transparent processes. Implementing fair and transparent hiring and promotion processes is essential to avoid bias and discrimination by clearly defining job requirements, using standardized evaluation criteria, and involving diverse decision makers. Organizations can ensure that all candidates are given the equal opportunity and that promotion are based on merit. So just going back to what I mentioned before, make sure that it doesn't seem as favoritism, that if somebody's being promoted, it's not based on also their race and ethnicity. It's just good to open up. If you're doing a hiring process, for example, just make sure that you reached out to different organizations that have the pool of people that you can attract from when it comes to different languages, race, ethnicity, backgrounds. And for instance, if I work at a casino and I need front desk staff, I'm not just gonna use, I might just use the, for example, Indeed or one of those systems, LinkedIn. But on top of that, I just need to reach out into the community, to the different agencies, the Asian community, the Hispanic, Latino community, the different resource centers, so I can attract more. They can display it on their websites and the job descriptions, and I can attract more. Still, the hiring process is going to be the same. It's going to be strong, and there is giving opportunity to the person based on the qualifications and merits. So equity in hiring and promotions is a big deal for non-for-profits that want to be inclusive and fair. When everyone has a shot at the job, you get a more diverse crew and a cooler work environment. To avoid favoritism and unfairness, we need to create hiring and promotion processes that are totally fair and clear. We need to be specific about what the job requires, use the same rules to judge everyone, and have people from different backgrounds making the decisions. That way, everyone gets the fair shot and the person gets the job. So it is super important for non-for-profit organizations to make sure everyone has a fair shot, right? We need to create policies and programs that let everybody participate and contribute. So here's the deal. We need to develop policies that promote diversity and inclusion. It's not enough just to have the rules. We need to make sure people know about them and follow them. And let's not forget about training and resources. We need to educate our staff and volunteers on diversity and inclusion so they can understand and support everyone. Offering scholarships, internships, mentorship programs to people from underrepresented backgrounds is a good way to level up the playing field. But that's not all. We need to team up with community organizations to provide resources and support for marginalized groups. I think together we can create a better world when it comes to diversity and inclusion, giving everybody a chance to succeed. Now, bias and discrimination. We can tackle bias and discrimination head on. One great way is by rolling out comprehensive training programs. These programs should teach employees why diversity and inclusion matter and give them the tools to spot and address bias and discrimination in the workplace. Another important step is setting up clear ways for people to report cases of bias or discrimination. This could mean setting up anonymous reporting channels, naming specific people or groups to handle complaints, and taking swift action when something happens. Gender, ethnicity, and leadership diversity. So it would be nice to collect data where you guys can provide some sort of metric system and on how you guys are advancing. So that's why I go back to the importance of collecting data, not just about the community, but also about your organization. So making improvements would be based on hiring processes, if it's based on organization, if it's based on attracting more clientele, it would be based on reaching out to different resources or different community centers and make sure that you're promoting your organization in different languages. And we know that diversity makes us strong as make us strong as an organization, and we're proud of having a progress. It would be nice for you guys to say we're proud to make it that we have made a progress because we went from here to here, and this is how diverse we are. This is how much we have increased. So it is important to collect some sort of metric so you guys know if you are progressing or just in the status quo. Now, I know that there's going to be barriers along the way. And some of those barriers have to do with funding, paying for the, it could be paying for additional services to eliminate language barriers, or materials that you need to have in addition, or just hiring the personnel. But let's talk about some of the language access aspects. When it comes to health and safety, a lot of the times it's more of an investment in the case of hospital clinics, when a lot of providers may feel like they don't have they should save some money, so let's not hire a professional interpreter, or let's not use the telephone because it costs a lot of money. So the problem there, even they're standing and saving a few bucks, is that the person doesn't get the full understanding of the treatment, and the person doesn't follow up the patient doesn't follow up the treatment plan, and they could end up, instead of doing a follow-up at the primary care physician or clinic, they end up in the emergency room, which is more expensive, and we're not talking about a few dollars, hundreds, we're just talking about thousands when somebody ends up in an emergency room. So Education-wise, a lot of you guys work with educations, students that have limited English proficiency. They could struggle to keep up with the class. And that could be one of the barriers. Employment opportunities, lack of language proficiency can limit job options and career advancement. Civic participation, the inability to understand government documents or procedures can disenfranchise LP individuals. A lot of the times we have very high verbiage, high register in the communication, and when it gets translated literally, that could also cause a problem. So I encourage you guys to look at your brochures, documents, things that you provide to the community, and see what grade level also, because literacy also plays into diversity, equity, and inclusion. And knowing that if we create some document that is high register college level document, it's not going to be understood by most of the community. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the standard would be 4th grade level. And I've heard some 2nd grade level here for some organizations. So just make sure that the literacy level is also into consideration. So as a community, we are very well diverse, and I think we need to start collaborating with each other. That's why this metric and me bothering you guys about collecting data, it's kind of crucial, because knowing what we have and what we could use, we can collaborate with each other as well and partner up with the other organizations. Some of the sub-awardees, they have different languages in-house, which is something that we can benefit in the future. And some of you are also working with the ESL, English as Second Language. So a lot of you guys encounter all this diverse community, diverse in languages that if we invest on it, we can for sure help each other in the future and use them, provide, like I said before, providing maybe some internship programs or some mentorship, and on top of resources that you guys provide. So I'm going to slow down here for a second. Open it for discussion. I want to hear about specific time that some of you were able to some sort of experience of inclusion. Maybe it's something that you have done as an organization, or very personal experience that you guys had in the past.
I'll go ahead and share, David.
Thank you.
There's actually a few experiences that I would like to share with everyone. I would go ahead, as some of you know, I previously worked for the College of Southern Nevada. I was a multicultural outreach coordinator and also the senator for student government for the Henderson campus. And I can say that we did take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously. We made sure that all the students felt included, and the information that we were sharing with the student was easily accessible, and that it was translated to different languages. Now, at the time, the info was only translated in Spanish, but now we can see that there is more effort to translate to other languages. So moving on from CSN, once I started working here with United Way, I also saw that there was the same strategy, that we do take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously. We do host bi-weekly meetings with the staff. We have a committee. We get together and then we discuss everything we want to talk about to make sure that everyone feels safe, everyone feels comfortable, everyone feels respected, and they can do their job in a comfortable space. So we want to create a safe space for everyone, no matter what your religion is, your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, and all the other things. I think that is very important, not only for nonprofits and government agencies, but also for businesses. When an employee or a client walks in to your organization or business and they feel comfortable, they feel welcomed, and the interaction is positive, then it's most likely going to be a positive outcome. As an employee, when I come to United Way and I feel comfortable, I feel like I'm respected, my beliefs are respected, and everyone is treating me with dignity and respect, I'm going to give 100% when it comes to my job and duties with the company. And I'm pretty sure that all of us in this room can agree with that. So, and also I'd like to thank you for the information that shared. I think you did a very good job of covering many aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I encourage everyone here to start and maybe having meetings with your employees, looking at the data and kind of come up with ways to make sure that everyone feels included and that everyone feels that they can speak their mind and be themselves. I think that being an immigrant, sometimes it can be hard for you to try and fit in. You know, it's like a cookie cutter, you know, you try and fit in, but I don't think that's right. I think that you should be able to be yourself and that we should all accept each other the way we are and just treat each other with respect.
Thank you, Val.
For me.
Anybody has any questions, comments? And I'm going to start reaching out to all of you one more time to start meeting again. Have some availability starting tomorrow. So if some of you are ready for tomorrow, go ahead and send me an email and we can coordinate a time, whether it's virtual or in person. And so we can continue progressing. I'm going to send Abel some a share folder that will have this information in PDF format, and also I will have some. I'll start in that same folder. I'm going to start adding some templates for policies and procedures, just so you can compare to, if you already have a policy and procedure in place, you can compare, and when we meet or have a conversation, we can tweak it to your convenience. Some of the organizations I have suggested that if you have bilingual staff, that is not in their job description to be bilingual, but perhaps they're being compensated with a stipend, that kind of has to be into a policy and procedure format if you have that. Otherwise, you need to incorporate the bilingual part of it in the job description for the person, just common HR practices. And excuse me, and also make sure that this type of policy and procedure for language access includes something that differentiates a person that speaks the language, which means that they can do their own job speaking the language, and also what is called a qualified or certified or just an interpreter, which is somebody that helps with the three-way communication outside their job scope of practice, which could be in the case of, for example, of a clinic, would be the nurse or the medical assistant helping the doctor with the patient, and that's fine. But then that's a different type of technique that needs to be some training needs to be in place as well. So just because they need to be familiar with the terminology, also how to say things, so they can reduce the liability of speaking for the person. And like I said before, if the client refuses the use of language access, when the language access is actually, when the interpreter is actually needed at the moment because it's something vital or something important, some explanation of an important document, then it needs to be notified somewhere that they refused. Questions, comments?
I will add one thing, and that is just for clarification. I know that we have subawardees attending this workshop, and it's common practice that we usually send the recording with all the documents at the end of the presentation to all the subawardees. For those of you that are joining our workshop for the first time, I'm gonna drop my email in the chat. It's ablem@uwsn.org. And if you want me to send you the recording, it's gonna be in YouTube, and I can go ahead and share it with you, but that's it.
I think I just click on the allow participants to unmute. So if there's anything you want to say, you're now able to unmute.
Okay, I guess I'm unmuted now, but not everybody else. I think that's the problem when you're asking for feedback, that we all couldn't unmute. So I just wanted to say, you know, personally, being a person who does not, say, celebrate normal secular holidays, I always felt that I was excluded. I would hear people like in HR, you know, talking about, if you don't celebrate Christmas, go back to your country, things like that. And so my time here at Discovery Children's Museum was the first time ever I felt like I was included. They have done a really good job in making sure that all employees are able to share their ideas and their beliefs, and, you know, feel like a part of our just personal museum, like family community here. But then, you know, part two was just that I think in that a lot of people don't realize that not everyone else is like them, you know, and so that goes to organizations, individuals. And so it really does sometimes take someone from the outside, you know, needing help with services that we're unable to provide, as we already had a session on, you know, sign language interpretation and things like that, or, you know, someone to point out that just because you can read something doesn't mean that everyone else can. And my own personal, you know, having created a lot of signs for organizations and some translation, you know, services, is that most people aren't reading anyway. So if there's a way to go with symbols or something to communicate those same types of things, like, we really appreciate that kind of feedback. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, now that you mentioned the holidays, it's funny because Cinco de Mayo just passed, and I was helping out some doctors, and here comes the patient Cuban guy, and it's like, so are you excited about Cinco de Mayo? And we're like, oh my God. It's like, that comes from another country. Like they're not even aware of that, the existence of Cinco de Mayo. But yes, it's there are a lot of things that play into culture too, like even going by the name, a lot of Hispanics have, including myself, the two last names, and it's the first last name that counts as the main last name. The second one is the mom's last name, and but a lot of the times when we address the person, it should be the first last name. And instead of the second last name, because usually in the English culture, we look at the very last name and Mr. And in my case, my last name is Loaiza Funk, and I hear a lot Mr. Funk. And I was like, oh, well, that's not me. That's my grandpa. It's Mr. Loaiza. And so so when it comes to calling somebody, it's always appropriate to ask them what they want to be called. And this goes not just because of the name, but also because of the gender inclusivity. Like if somebody's transgender and they prefer to be called something, whether it's a name or a he or she or they, then that's something that we need to be also conscious, just to feel, make them feel inclusive. So that's a good question, like, oh, what's your name and what do you want to be called? I usually tell people you can call me David, that's my name, but if you're accent impaired, just call me David, but not Dave.
Thank you for that, David.
Thank you.
I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. I know the meeting is supposed to end at 12 p.m. If anyone would like to step out, please go ahead and do so, but we can keep the conversation going in case someone has any questions, comments, or concerns. Please feel free to unmute yourself and add anything if you wish to do so.
Matthew just said, we say Lunar Year instead of Chinese New Year to be more inclusive. Thank you for sharing that. That's something that I just learned today.
Thank you, Frankie. Have an amazing day as well. So I'm looking at the chat here. Yes, I think I'm not seeing any questions, comments, and concerns. David, anything else you would like to add?
I just want to say, if we haven't talked yet, don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to, like I said, have either a phone call, video call, or come to you in person. So I usually block my Fridays and some afternoons for this type of conversations. So please look at your calendar and send me an email. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. That was a great presentation. Thank you all for attending today. Valuable information. And we will be seeing you all hopefully in the next workshop. Once we get closer to that, I'll be sending out all the info via email. Thank you all and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.